Committee of the Convention for the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage, which took place in Bogota, capital of Colombia. This was an incredible and memorable moment for the city of Macedo de Cavaleiros and the small village of Podence, as well as for the northeast region of Portugal, Montanhas. It represented for us an achievement without comparison, of which we are proud and wish to honor by using this acknowledgement of our small territory, but of strongly willed people to bring awareness of the importance of intangible cultural heritage for the livelihood of small village and to reach out and connect with those around the world where these practices are also highly valued. Today, we are joined by speakers from 8 different countries, France, Belgium, Italy, Greece, Colombia, Brazil, Portugal, and Spain, to talk about masked rituals in rural villages and big urban carnivals in great cities. All these festivities are playful, full of color, incredible expressions of collective and individual creativity, incorporating dances, music, gastronomy, historical reenactments, and above all, togetherness of friends, families, neighbors, and even strangers. It's no doubt one of the most important social events of the year. And that is why in moments like the one we are living, this global pandemic is so important that we find a way of still enjoy and celebrate these dates together. Therefore, I thank you for accepting our invitation to talk about these extraordinary events and their diverse shapes and forms, and share it with us. On behalf of the municipality of Macedo de Cavaleiros, our partners from Inatel Foundation, Colaborativo, the Polytechnic Institute of Bragança, and the Association Group of Caretos de Podence, thank you. And to all the viewers, have a good time and enjoy this meeting of cultural heritage around the world. Special thanks to Patricia for introducing me and for all this hard work with the festivities of the Instituto Politécnico in Podence, and for the organization of this webinar, of course. Thank you. And I wish you all a great webinar and enjoy it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, President of the municipality. I will now give the word to Francisco Medellino, President of the Inatel Foundation.
Thanks, Patricia. Good morning to everybody. I am the president of Inatel. Inatel is an old foundation in Portugal with a link with the development and the preservation of popular culture in Portugal. And for me, it's a pleasure to be here. And a special thanks to the president, Benjamin Rodrigues. It's a pleasure to the foundation work with the municipality of Macedo de Cavaleiros. A special thanks to Patricia, organizer of this webinar, and with a very strong work in Portugal in the study the masks, and a special words too for the panelists from the countries, the panelists to work with us today, and a special thanks to the Laboratório, and Andrei Romanenko and the Politécnico de Bragança. For the Inatel, it's very important to study the preservation of the masks, and in this time, with the great problems of nationalisms, the masks prove the cultural dialogue between Europe, between the countries of Europe, and I think this webinar is very, very important. Then good work to everybody, and I enjoy the webinar, and good morning and thank you.
Thank you very much for your words. I will now give the word to Andrei Romanenko. Please go ahead.
Hello, good morning, everybody, and especially very early good morning to our participants from Colombia and Brazil. And it's a very big privilege for us to be part of this, and I would like to thank the municipality of Macedo de Cavaleiros and Inatel Foundation and our partner Polytechnic Institute from Bragança for this opportunity to co-host this event. MORE is a recent organization that is included in the science and technology system of Portugal, and one of our objectives is exactly to promote cultural heritage, material and immaterial, and this is really a privilege for us to be part of this webinar. Okay, what we can say is that masks are important. We have seen at this point medical masks are important. Patricia is wearing one that allows us to protect our bodies, but also enables us to prepare prepare our hearts, prepare our minds for the new carnival that will happen in the next year. And yesterday on the radio, I heard that this year carnival is a carnival of memories, but actually it's also a carnival of hope, of our willingness to next year. Unfortunately, it will be only next year, but to do better and to compensate for this time, very difficult time that has been very difficult forever. However, it's also an opportunity. For instance, here we have representatives from 8 countries that gathered together today to discuss this important topic. So it's really a wonderful experience that probably wouldn't have happened if there were no such restrictions. So that's an opportunity to take profit of. And without further ado, I would like to thank once again everybody, and let's hear from our panelists, from our presenters, and learn about their experiences. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrei. Thank you all for your inspiring opening remarks. We will start now, obviously with António Carneiro, which I know for a couple of years. And as we've been working, we were working really hard for the nomination of Carnival Podence to UNESCO. I am from Macedo de Cavaleiros, so for me, it was a great pleasure to do this work in the hometown that I was born. And he will now talk about his experience of these years of putting together this association and all that it implied from the 80s until now. How did all of this happen, and how did Carnival also changed and was impacted by our social and demographic changes of the last decades? I will now give the word to António Carneiro, President of the Association Group of Caretos. Okay. Força.
Bom dia a todos.
É um grande prazer ter aqui este painel de convidados que nos dá uma grande honra aqui da Casa do Caretos, aqui em Trás-os-Montes, aqui no coração mesmo do Nordeste das Montanhas. Obrigado à Câmara Municipal, ao Inatel, ao MORA, ao Instituto ao Politécnico de Bragança, que se quiseram associar aqui a esta partilha de experiências do Carnaval a nível mundial. Eu vou dar aqui um pequeno testemunho desta caminhada dos Caretos de Podence até os dias de hoje. E queria começar por me situar e contextualizar há uns anos atrás. Isto após o 25 de Abril, a tradição dos Caretos começou a ter aí os primeiros passos de rejuvenescimento ou de se afirmar paulatinamente. A tradição esteve quase extinta nos anos 74, isto devido ao Estado Novo, que não era muito favorável e muito adepto deste tipo de tradições. Com a realização do filme Noémia Delgado em 1976, viemos aqui veio dar outro impulso aqui à tradição, e com esse momento e com esse momento histórico que é para nós, os jovens da aldeia de Podence começaram-se a interessar por estes rituais e dar seguimento ao mesmo. A tradição é uma tradição que passa de geração em geração em Podence. Pronto, isto vem de tempos já longínquos, né? Os mais velhos sempre se recordam de ter os caretos consigo na altura do Carnaval. Os caretos de Podence enquadram-se nas festividades de inverno, mas no ciclo do Carnaval. É isso que o careto de Podence tem. É um ritual de chocalhar essencialmente as mulheres solteiras. É isso que move o careto de Podence. Queria também assinalar a construção da Casa do Careto. A Casa do Careto é este edifício que está agora aí na vossa imagem. Foi um edifício que foi apoiado pelo município de Macedo de Cavaleiros e inaugurado em 2004. E a partir daí a tradição dos caretos e a festa do Carnaval dos Caretos começa a ter outras dinâmicas. E essas dinâmicas têm a ver com um programa definido. Anteriormente o Carnaval era mais espontâneo, e com esta vinda de mais gente a ver, neste caso, esta magia que os caretos têm em volta de si, foi necessário fazer um programa. Pronto, e a partir daí começamos a fazer um programa com várias atividades ligadas não só com a parte da festa, mas com caminhadas, com concertos tradicionais, 4 dias de evento que pudéssemos, neste caso, fixar aqui as pessoas durante os 4 dias. E foi isso que foi conseguido. De ano após ano, começamos a capitalizar mais atividades, mais gente a vir até junto a nós, porque isto é uma aldeia com falta de gente. É uma aldeia que tem cerca de 200 e tal habitantes, e nós, nos períodos do Carnaval, nos 4 dias, conseguimos ter 40, 50 mil pessoas. Não é massificação, não é nada disso, não é? A aldeia tem condições para, neste caso, conseguir dar as condições a quem nos visita, pronto, e é isso que nós, de ano para ano, em sintonia com o município de Macedo de Cavaleiros, que temos esse propósito, e foi isso que fomos conseguindo ao longo do tempo. Em 2014, iniciamos um processo de inventariação a nível do registro do património cultural e imaterial em Portugal, com a ajuda preciosa da nossa amiga doutora Patrícia Cordeiro, que está aqui ao meu lado direito, que foi um papel fundamental para que a candidatura em 2019 chegasse a bom ponto. Esse processo foi um processo, pronto, com algumas dificuldades. Muita gente na altura não acreditou em nós, não acreditou, mas fez-se luz e as coisas de ano para ano e conseguimos dificultar, ultrapassar, aliás, essas barreiras que à partida eram quase impossíveis de alcançar. Graças a todos, ao município, à Patrícia, a agentes de Podence, que souberam guardar este tesouro ao longo de séculos e continua bem vivo no século XXI. Esta é uma parte também das paredes que o Podence tem neste momento. São criações que nós queremos e que estão a ser criadas na aldeia de Podence, pronto, e é isso que nós estamos a tentar fazer, criar a aldeia mais colorida de Portugal e de ano para ano mais um mural e mais outro, e assim. No evento temos também depois as tascas ou tabernas, onde é que o pessoal pode comer produtos regionais aqui da região. Isto também é um atrativo para quem nos visita. Estamos também situados bem próximos aqui da zona da Alfoleira do Azibo, que é uma das praias a nível de Portugal eleita como maravilha, 7 maravilhas das praias fluviais, que é visitada por milhares de visitantes durante o ano. Isto faz parte da freguesia de Podence, é por isso que eu estou a assinalar e a referenciar também esta maravilha que está aqui bem próximo de nós. Isto é também mais outra parte dos Caretos, né, da Casa do Careto e das figuras que no final do intro são queimadas também aqui em Podence, no intro do Chucareiro. Esta é uma da parte também do nosso museu, e onde é que nós estamos aqui. Podemos ver neste museu algumas obras de artistas da região, que é o caso de Graça Moraes, Valentina Mendes, José Canelha, entre outros. Né? Pronto, foi um espaço que foi crescendo com muita carolice, com muita paixão acima de tudo. É isto que... e muito acreditar nesta tradição que outrora esteve quase em fim de vida e hoje que é uma tradição viva, é uma tradição que é conhecida em Portugal e em todo o mundo. Depois também a parte aqui da nossa igreja, uma igreja também do século XVIII, também que faz parte aqui também do nosso coração, da nossa aldeia, que no corrente ano, diga-se de passagem, vai ser intervencionada também em termos de recuperação de alguns aspectos da talha e de outros. E depois temos também a parte dos artesãos, que também vieram dar alguma vida aqui à tradição, porque antigamente não havia quase quem fizesse máscaras. As máscaras eram feitas improvisadas pelos caretos. Hoje já temos alguém que dá essa continuidade em fazer máscaras e é para continuar. Este é um dos aspectos aqui também da festa, do ritual em si, não é? Das imagens, do público, dos caretos, da sua animação, pronto, e uma tradição muito viva, muito alegre, muito dinâmica, em que todas as pessoas se sentem muito à vontade. Este é outro aspecto aqui das tabernas, das ruas de Podence, a chocalhar. Temos depois também uma situação que é o pregão casamenteiro, que faz parte do ritual do intrudo, consiste em casar todas as mulheres solteiras aqui da freguesia, da localidade. E pronto, e aqui é a queima do intrudo, que é o final da festa, de queimar aquilo que é mal, aquilo que é de velho. Voltando aqui um bocadinho atrás, depois com a história da nossa chancela em termos de património nacional, se assim se pode dizer, e o reconhecimento pela Direção-Geral do Património Cultural, conseguimos então, junto da Comissão da Unesco, que a candidatura dos Caretos de Podence fosse levada então ao comitê que se realizou em 2019 em Bogotá, na Colômbia. Pronto, e foi esse o desígnio. Como disse atrás, não foi fácil, conseguimos, foi conseguida uma candidatura exemplar, reconhecida, neste caso, pela Unesco, né? E que ainda nos dá mais garantias e mais vontade de continuar. Após esse reconhecimento, tivemos também outra visita do nosso Presidente da República, que aconteceu o ano passado, e que também nos encheu de muito orgulho e de um grande reconhecimento. Pronto, é isso que nós temos para vos dizer. A aldeia de Podence é uma aldeia pequena, mas é visitada por milhares de visitantes durante o ano. É isso que nós temos de continuar a fazer. E como disse, eu digo muitas vezes, o selo da Unesco não nos dá cheque bancário, não nos dá nenhum medalhão, dá-nos é mais responsabilidade para continuar a manter esta tradição, para que ela passe para as gerações vindouras. Esse é o nosso propósito, e continuar. E neste ano atípico tivemos que fazer alguma coisa. E pronto, e eu foi fazer já um concurso de fotografia online que correu o mundo também, com várias participações de pessoas que vieram ao Carnaval noutros anos e que mandaram-nos fotografias. Correu bem, correu dentro acima das nossas expectativas. Ontem, domingo gordo, tivemos os Caretos à varanda, pronto, também a assinalar aqui pronto, o dia gordo, o domingo gordo, que é um dia também muito festivo aqui em Podence. E hoje estamos aqui de muito bom grado a partilhar estas experiências com os carnavais a nível do mundo e talvez, por que não, fazer um intercâmbio depois a nível mundial com estas experiências diferentes de país para outro. Por que não? Deixo-vos aqui o desafio. Para amanhã vamos finalizar com a queima do entrudo. E este ano, para finalizar, e como estamos num ano muito atípico da pandemia, vamos, neste caso, de uma forma simbólica, queimar o coronavírus. O coronavírus que está a fazer muita moça em todas as áreas das vidas a nível mundial. É isso, pronto, é isso que eu vos tenho para dizer, uma pequena apresentação do meu testemunho, que eu estou desde os meus 8 anos as memórias que eu tenho de trás até hoje, pronto, e já tenho um filho que é careto, meu pai é careto, pronto, isto é a tradição, a passar de geração em geração, e é isso que nós queremos que se mantenha para as gerações vindouras. Muito obrigado a todos, espero que seja um bom dia de partilha desta experiência. Obrigado.
Thank you, Antonio. Thank you for watching and listening to us. I will now move on to the presentation of Kostas Ioannidis. I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name correctly.
Oh, it's okay, very good.
And I'll just introduce you. Kostas was born in Naousa, Greece. Since he was 7 years old, he was dancing in the local dance cultural association Parsos, participated in many festivals in Europe presenting the traditions of Naousa and sharing the mass tradition bulls. Every year he's participating in this ritual as a viewer, following the groups in the city and participating at the preparation of many dancers. In 2017, he participated at the ritual as a member of the group, and since 2012, He was member and president of the Sea of Youth Commission in Greece until 2019, when he became president of the Sea of Greece National Section, working in many cultural projects and organizing international festivals. So please, Kostas, go ahead and make your presentation.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank you for the invitation. And it's my pleasure to be here with all of you talking about mask traditions around the world. Can I start?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, I am going to talk to you about mask traditions in Greece, and especially about the tradition in Nausa, my homeland. I will start from the past. In ancient times, people used to wear masks for various reasons. Ancient Greeks called the mask prosopio, which makes the face ugly. Masks were also used in rituals when gods were worshipped by people or priests during mystic celebrations. Gold masks were used to kings or warriors when they died. Also, masks were used in ancient Greek theater by actors to transform themselves during the tragedies. In ancient Greek theater, only men used to be actors. Women's characters were presented by men dressed like women. Masks were made by clay, wood, animals' fur or skin, gold or silver. Masks help the person to change, transform the reality and move to another level, closer to gods. Mask was the item to help the methexis, the ecstasy, and the magic. Many mask traditions are still alive in Greece, most of them in northern Greece, in Macedonia, Thessaly, and Thrace regions, in Aegean Islands, and Crete. We can see zoomorphic masks and bells in most of these traditions. They are connected with the agricultural and livestock communities, connected also with religious rituals and with ancient Greek paganism and sympathetic magic. These traditions can be named as rites du passage, as they are taking place when we have a change from a period to another, turning of the year, winter to spring, childhood to adulthood, winter or spring solstice. In Greece, we have two periods with mask traditions, the holy 12 days from Christmas to Epiphany. We said Agio Dodekaimero. There we have mask traditions and transformations like bears, goats, men dressed like women, bells, swords, ritual, plowing, non-formal weddings, etc. And the pre-Lenten period, we said apokria, which means no meat period according to the Orthodox calendar. And we have historical backgrounds, phallic symbols, adulthood ceremonies, customs for well-being, happy year, for the seeds and fruits, rituals for the good of the society, and even more just because they found them from previous generations. Here, there are some masks for the traditions taking place during the 12 days between Christmas to Epiphany in various places in Greece. And here's some masks from the pre-Lenten period, the Carnival in Greece, in various places again. The case of Nausa. Nausa is a small city in Imathia, the central Macedonian region in northern Greece, placed where in ancient times were the yards of Midas, with the well-smelled roses, and where Silenos, the friend of Dionysus, tasted Midas wine. At the same place, there are the Nymphaeum and Aristotle's school, where Alexander the Great was taught by the philosopher. Around the city, there are many ancient tombs and the ancient city Mieza. Nausa's founding goes back to 14th, 15th century. During the Ottoman domination, Nausa fought against the Ottomans when they came to recruit young males in 1705. Also, in 1822, Nausa did its revolution against Ottoman Empire and was punished with total destruction and holocausts, and for this reason is recognized as heroic city in Greece. Every year in Carnival period, in the 2 Sundays before Lent, a traditional ritual with ancient roots take place in Nausa. It is named Boules and is a custom with masks and with participation of young unmarried men only. There are 2 figures in this ritual, the Boula male figure and the Boula bride female figure. According to many researchers in Nausa, this is a ritual based in ancient paganist religious rituals connected with the cult of Dionysus, which over the years incorporated many historical issues, events of the city, songs about battles, legends, etc. According to Mr. Takis Baitis, there are similarities with the ancient rituals that were taking place during the month Anthesterion, February-March, and the celebrations about the wedding of Dionysus. Manolis Valsamidis also claims that is common with adulthood ceremonies in ancient times, and the sorts of bules are the sticks that Dionysus and his followers had on their hands, thyrsos. During the years, historical moments of Nausa were added. As we said, in 1705, when Ottomans came in Nausa for the violent recruitment of Christian young boys, the guards of Nausa killed the Ottoman soldiers. After that event, all the guards were executed. According to the tradition, the year after, young boys of Nausa wore the guards' costume and danced around the city in remembrance of the heroes. The following years, young men of Nausa became kleftes, means thieves, warriors during the Ottoman domination in the mountains, and used to come in Nausa at the carnival period, participating as bules and collecting money, food, and munitions. The destruction of Nausa in 1822 also was a fact that was added in this ritual. During the Second World War, the ritual was stopped, but nowadays is still a live heritage in Nausa with a lot of young boys participating every year. The custom requires discipline and obedience to rules concerning the costumes, the music repertoire, the dances, and the itinerary. The ritual is also known as Genitsarian Bules, and in 2020 was described in National Inventory of ICH. Here is the male figure, Bulla, with the main parts. The mask is named prosopo, it means face. The silk headscarf is named tarabulo. The white skirt is named fustanella. The woolen socks are named bedspes. The shoes, charucha, with the black tassels. The sword is named palla, and the silver coins and jewels in the front, on the back, on the neck, and on fustanella. The female figure bulla, bride, and the main parts of it. The mask is also named prosopo. The headscarf with flowers and colorful ribbons. The belt is named kolani. The waistcoat is named zostra. The waistcoat, saltamarca. The long white dress with colorful design, as we have a bride, and the silver coins and jewels on the chest. The mask, prosopo, is handmade by an old mold on which the craftsman puts a thick cloth covered with beeswax to be cool for the face. From the outside, it is covered by stucco. With a cutter, creates the holes for the eyes, the nose, the mouth. It is painted white, red on the cheeks, a yellow spot put on the forehead, and a black for eyebrows. The mustache is made by horsetail. According to the tradition, the white is for the death and the red for the resurrection, the awakening. The yellow spot also is for the death of slavery. The mask is tied on Bulla's face with a red scarf and the silk tarambulo. The mask of Bulla, the bride, is handmade also with the same techniques. The differences are the small red cheeks, and there is no mustache as we have a female figure. It is tied on Bulla's head with a red scarf and with many colorful flowers, ribbons, tools. The colors have the same symbolization with the mask of Bulla, and the flowers on the head are for the spring which is coming. The musical instruments of the ritual are zurna, the wooden float of Nausa, and the bul, the drum. In Nausa, there are two musical families connected with this ritual, and the repertoire includes walking dances as parade. We call them patinada. It means walk and dances in circle. The group of Bulla, Buluki, the troupe, is following the old itinerary with no changes during the years. Is a circle in the old town with 7 stops in crossroads where the groups stop the parade and dance in circle. Usually the Bulla who lives in every neighborhood dances in each stop. The route starts from the town hall and finishes in the last square, Alonia. The performance on Sunday of Carnival. Each young boy after his 14th years old will wear a mask during the ritual. The preparation starts months before when the mask has to be ready and the headscarf has to fix on dancer's head. The other parts of the costume have to be ready and clean. Early in the morning, the dancer starts his dressing up with the help of an old bulla. In the past, the dressing up used to start the night before, as the coins were sewn on the vest one by hand. The musicians start playing the song of mastering and going from home to home, collecting the entire troupe. Last one is the chief, who is the older one. Now, bullas are just walking and they are cut in pairs. Firstly, Buluki, the troupe of bullas and musicians, will go to the town hall, where the chief and the bulla bride will visit the mayor, asking his permission to dance in the city. There, in front of the mayor, only the chief will take off his mask. After the permission is given, the song changes and the swords are coming out of the scabbards and the dance starts. First dance is by the chief and the bride. Chief will dance Papadia, an important dance, and Bulla, the dance Makrinitsa, a historical dance about the destruction of Nausa. Bullas will move in the old borders of Nausa. According to the tradition, as they are walking and dancing, the rhythm will become faster, and the bullas will cross the swords in pairs, like in battle. As we said, we have 7 stops in various places in the city, and the last stop is in the square Alonia, where the bullas will take off their mask for the first time after they dressing up in the morning. They will dance, and also the old bullas can participate in the celebration. And after this square, all the bullas will move to the central square of Nausa without masks, and then there the music will finish. Here are some photos from the preparation. The old bullas will help the dancer to participate. Also, young boys will dress up with others. Here also the bulla bride is preparing, is me in 2017. The troupe will come at the house of the dancer, and he will go on balcony. He will raise his hands on the sky, shaking his chest, and the partners will do the same as a signal of recognition. The bulla bride just going on the door and making 3 how we can say it, it's just going in the front and kissing the hands of his mother. Here are the bullas in the street. When the bulla will meet you, he will shake your hand and jumping on the side, and the bride will ask you to put some money on her pocket. And also here are some photos during the ritual. Thank you very much. I think it's not easy to understand all this ritual by watching photos, but I will send you a link in the chat, so after the webinar you can see. And of course, you are all welcome in also during the carnival period, maybe next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kostas. We will now move on to our next presentation. And I'm going to introduce you the work of Charles Feger from France. Since 2010, Charles has been exploring folk rituals and traditions across various cultures. His long-term photographic research project has seen him document masked winter rituals on the European continent in Wilderman, and masked rites in Japan with Okainoshima. I hope I said it right. In 2019, a solo exhibition at the Château de Duc de Bretagne in Nantes unveils the 3rd chapter of this ambitious series of portraits which Feger pursued in the Americas between 2013 and 2018. As I've told you before, when I invited you for this webinar. I'm an admirer of your work. I think it's an extraordinary work, and I can't wait to hear you talk about it. Please go ahead, Charles, and welcome.
Thank you. Could I share screen?
Yes, I think you're allowed to. Do you have access to the green?
Do you see it? It's fine. Yes.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. Well, I will have to improvise everything today, so I didn't do any homework. But I mean, I can only speak quickly, and if you want to discuss anything or ask questions, I would be open for discussion. But I would say that since 2010, I've been photographing. I mean, since 2000, in general, I've been photographing communities in the world. So all my work has been a large research about communities, which can be sport teams, schools, regiments. I mean, what I could say is that from the first 10 years of my work, I've discovered that any group I photograph was also based on certain type of rituals. So it came very naturally that I started to work on this project with the man in 2010. In fact, I did it after I worked also in Brazil in a project called Fantasia, which is already a project about masquerades and carnival in Brazil, but on this very spectacular aspect of the destaque and fantasias that you can find in the samba schools of Poços de Caldas in the Minas Gerais area. But to go back on Wildermann, let's say that this research started in Austria in 2010, and I could not really stop so far. So I've mainly worked on this project in 2010 to 2011, and then I kept going every year for a few groups that I keep meeting, or just because some groups are contacting me to say, you didn't come in our region, would you like to visit us? And then I keep going. So let's say my work is not, I'm not ethnographer, I'm not anthropologist, I'm just a photographer. And but the way I photograph is mainly based on photographing the characters in a landscape, and usually without any particular gesture. I mean, there's a gesture, but there's no movement. And I do it in, I would say, in the 19th century style of a classical photographer, as I could say, a collection, an accumulation, like a butterfly collection, I could say. And so I've been meeting, I would say, about 80 groups in Europe so far, maybe 80 to 90, from the Krampus in Austria, as well as the Busho in Moac in Hungary, as well as the Mamuton in Mamoyada in Sardinia. Several groups as well in Greece, in Kreta, and I mean, I've found step by step more and more groups. So that would take ages to talk about all these. But let's say the research started with the idea that I was interested in these people dressing themselves mainly as animals. So the common point between all these traditions is that these are winter traditions. So let's say starting from the 1st of November in certain region in Italy until April in, for example, in Poland with the wet Monday in Poland. So except in England, Ireland, Scotland, where there are also traditions like this in the start of the spring and Easter, in summer, sorry, I would say that most of the tradition I photograph are connected to the winter, and probably with the idea of chasing the winter away, or welcoming also the winter and going into the dark days. And of course, since all these traditions are coming from regions where which are farming agricultural regions, there's a large tradition of which is connected with animality. So it's pretty easy to imagine that most of this population were farmers or people living in countryside, and they were living with a strong connection with animals, sometimes, most of the time, living in the same house with animals. And that's probably the reason why there is so much to connect with the fertility rituals. We have no idea of when all this started, and I would be really careful about that. I heard sometime that this comes from a certain a pagan time, probably some type of shamanism from the Neolithic time, but I must say that we have no idea, no clear idea about that. And for sure, this tradition, a lot of these traditions were created or recreated or created during the 19th century, and sometimes also created after the Second World War or before. And also a lot of tradition appeared in the 70s. So to give you an example, if you look at these characters, like this, they call the sauvage, and we are in the Jura area in Switzerland. This tradition started in the 80s. Also, if it gives the idea that this is very old tradition connected to the representation of the wine man, the wilderman, and as you know, there are a lot of regions using the bear as the main character. So, and especially in Switzerland, Bern, for example, the city of Bern, the name is coming from the bear, of course. So this tradition, if I give you an idea, they come out the first full moon night, so it's in January, and they scream at night in the middle of the forest and go down to the village where there's a group of women. Usually they should be young and virgin, and they throw the girls in the fountain of the village. So their face is covered in black, and their hands as well often. And so if they cross someone in the forest or in the street, they put some black on the face of the visitors. What's really important to say is that this is absolutely a creation. And after I've done Wilderman, the book came out in 5 languages, and we sold about 50,000 copies of that book all over the world, as well in Japanese. I've been contacted by several groups who were not photographed already, or who just started a new tradition. And if, for example, you look at Sardinia, there are new groups coming every 5 years. You find more groups. There's also a carnival in le Carnaval des Sauvages, which is in Brussels, which is a new carnival and which is a total recreation. And if I go in the last photos I've done, I would say in Sweden as well in Norway, this tradition completely stopped in the middle of the 60s, 70s, and started again maybe less than 2 or 3 years ago. So what I'm talking about is probably that the idea that the vitality of all this tradition is also coming with the creation of new traditions. So I'm very careful with the idea that traditions means that it is an old story that people are like preserving, and that we have to be careful of the heritage, because everything I photographed in a way has been connected with the mass culture, with the cinema inspiration. Of course, some of these characters were perfect inspiration for George Lucas when he created Star Wars. But I could also say that Star Wars also has been an inspiration for people who are now creating new traditions. So I'm careful with the idea that these traditions have to stay as they were, like as something which is constant and pure. To me, the evolution of tradition has to happen, and it absolutely happened. If you look at the costume of a Krampus in Austria, these characters, for example, let me see. Yeah, these are the Krampus. We have a video problem. Anyway, the Krampus costume, the Krampus outfit, especially the mask, has been really created, has been really evolving since the end of the Second World War. The first masks were really basic, usually made of just an old piece of fabric. And now you have like a big organization of people sculpting masks in wood, and you can absolutely see into these the way they are sculpting that the faces are getting a lot of influence from science fiction as well. And still, this Krampus tradition probably come from a very long time. So I would say I keep also traveling all over the world, working on this tradition. So I've done after Wildermann, I've worked on a book which is called Yokai no Shima, and in Japan. And also I worked on Cimarron, which is a book about tradition in Caribbean and countries, Americas, North America, and South America, and Central America. Mainly about tradition which are connected with slavery. So let's say basically tradition which have to do with the representation of runaway slave into American traditions. And there's also in such masquerade a lot of evolution, a lot of inspiration, a lot of melting pot, and I would say friction between different cultures. And I think that's where all this is very interesting, is that we are not here to preserve a tradition, but we are also here to follow the innovation of all these groups and their way to be able to keep going also in a very contemporary world. I think that would be fine for today.
Okay, Charles, thank you very much for your presentation. You make some very interesting points. We will probably discuss those in the discussion panel at the end of these first few presentations. And I will now move on to the presentation for Italy, for the presentation of Rita Melle. She was born and lives in Mamoiada, Sardinia, Italy, lived in Ireland for 3 years, working as travel advisor in the Dublin tourist office, then came back to Sardinia to settle her life. She's one of the curators of Viseras, the society that runs the Museum of Mediterranean Masks. She oversees the permanent collection of ethnographic masks in the museum and organizes occasional events and exhibitions dedicated to the Carnival. Is the responsible of the educational sector in the museum, supporting the relationship between the museums and the school. And she also develops international projects and exchange with other masks and museums at the International Festival of Masks called Mamu Mask. Thank you, Rita. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly well.
Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you, Patricia, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to take a part to this webinar. It's very interesting for us as an exchange of cultures. As you said, I come from Mamoiada, in the heart of Sardinia, Italy, which is a small, tiny little village, very famous for the masks, mamutones and issoadores. They are the masks of Mamoyada, mamutones and issoadores. And you can see the celebration of the masks starting from the 17th of January every year, which is the first parade, and then during the carnival. During the year, you can visit the Museum of Mediterranean Masks, which is a museum in which you can visit the masks from Sardinia, especially the area of Barbagia, where we have masks coming from 3 villages, Mamoyada, Ottana, and Orotelli. And also we have a room that guests masks that come from the Mediterranean area. In the museum, we have masks, all different to each other, but they have in common 3 elements. They all wear sheepskins. They all wear a mask. Sometimes the mask is anthropomorphic, sometimes is zoomorphic, and all the masks that we have. And the museum is composed by 3 rooms: the movie room, which is this one, and 2 rooms that are exhibitions room. The movie room introduces the visitor to the festival of Sant'Antonio Abate. Sant'Antonio, the 17th of January, is the most important festival for the village. In the village, there are 45 fires, and then the mask, they have to turn 3 rounds in each fire. It's the first parade of the year. Here are more pictures of the masks, and they are the masks parading. It's very difficult to tell you the origin of the masks. First of all, because they are pagan masks, and they come from a very ancient time. We believe that the masks represent a ritual, a ceremony made at the beginning of the harvest year to wish a good harvest. In fact, the masks parade from January to March. When they parade, they make 3 steps, 3 jumps, and when they jump, they shake 25-30 kilos of bells. The bells have a very important function in the ritual because they drive away all the evil spirits. Like everywhere in Europe, as the masks are wearing the bells have this function. They parade in 2 parallel rows, and in the past they were 12, like 12 are the months of the year. And we believe they represent the passage between the winter time and the springtime. In fact, the 2 masks are completely opposite to each other. The mamutone is the dark mask. They are very heavy, they are very sad, and they represent the old people, the bad times, the winter time. The issoadore, which is the opposite mask, they represent the positivity, the springtime again, the rebirth of the countryside, because the masks are celebrating a cycle. And we believe that they are so opposite to each other because they want to represent the beginning of the new harvest time. The masks everywhere in Barbagia, they are all men. We don't have women allowed to the parade, but the issoadore, during the parade, they throw the rope and they catch a woman from the crowd. Women are banned, as I told you, from the parade, but it's very important to involve them because they represent the fertility. They are the symbol of life and fertility. So they have to be involved because the ritual is a ritual which is calling the godmother, the hearth, to celebrate with women as well. During the festival of Sant'Antonio, the masks parade around the fire. They used to make 3 rounds in the fire, and they have to share the ceremony with the people. This is why they have to go in each fire, visiting all the neighborhood in the village. It's very important for them to share the ritual with the community, because it's not a show, it's a very important ceremony. And usually they use the pear tree, or the alder, which are very popular in this area. But we don't have masks only in Mamoyada. In the museum, we host masks that come from Ottana, and you can see the picture here, that are called merdules and boes. Merdule is the anthropomorphic mask, and they represent the shepherd, the head of the flock. And the boe, in our language, means cow. As you can see, they are fighting. And here you can see a very strong relationship between the man and the animal. Because for us, the carnival time is the period in which all the roles are inverted, are upside down. So the man is trying to do what the animals does for him all year round. And in this occasion, in this carnival, you can see that the cow is going to die, but is not happy to die. So there is a fight. He tried to escape to free himself, but it's impossible. But at the end, he's gonna die. And this is a very strong relationship between the shepherd and the cow. The cow is also the god of the Taurus, the god of the fertility. It's very important for the virility. Is the god Taurus, one of the most important animals in the countryside. And also in the other village, we have other masks that are called turpos. Turpu in our language means blind. They can't see, maybe because they come from the underworld, where it's impossible to see. And maybe they are blind also because they want to celebrate the changing of the seasons, is also the world which is upside down. Because during the carnival in Sardinia, we believe that there is a very strong connection between the everyday life, the day of the alive people, and the underworld. Everything is allowed during the carnival. It's a very chaotic period in which we can do whatever we like. We can exaggerate, we can eat a lot, we can drink a lot, because the carnival finishes the Tuesday, the Shrove Tuesday, which is the last day for the chaos. The next day, there is the Lent. So the world has to be back to the everyday life. No more chaos, not more confusion as well. In the museum, you can also make a journey around the Mediterranean area. And as I told you, we have masks that come from other countries. As you can see here, we have masks that come from the north of Italy, Krampus, that are also from Austria and Germany. We have rollates from Sappada, Slovenian masks, and the masks that you can see here in the corner are the masks that come from Greece, Gyros and Corelles. Galizia, Boteros that are from Viana do Bolo and Vilarino de Conso. Sorry. From 2018, here in the village, we have organized a festival, which is an international festival of masks. And every year we have invited masks that come from a special place in Europe. The first year we have invited the Caretos, that you know very well, that are from Podence. I want to say hello to Antonio, that I met for the festival. And I want to show you a little movie that lasts only a few seconds, which is the spot for advertising the festival 2018. And the last year, 2019, we have invited the Boteiros from Viana do Bolo, because it's very important for us, in the museum, to exchange the masks, okay? We exchange the masks after a connection, an exchange, a cultural exchange. In 2020, we were going to celebrate Mamu Mask, but unfortunately the COVID arrived. We have invited the mask from Greece, the Arapides, but at the end they couldn't come, of course. But in the past, we participated also to international festival as in mask. I remember, and I want to say hello to Charles Frege. And we hope to be back in the future in Mamoyada and host other masks. For listening and for inviting us to this very important webinar. Thank you, Patricia, and everybody.
Thank you very much, Rita. I also have one or two questions I would like to ask you, and then I will invite also others to make you questions, but we will leave that for the discussion panel. We'll move on now to our last presentation of this morning panel, which is Jean-Luc Pino, and he represents here another Caretos tradition of the center of Portugal. He attended secondary school in José Falcão Coimbra in the journalism and tourism area, having completed a degree in tourism. He then attended the law course at the Faculty of University of Coimbra, where he collaborated with the Institute of Foreign Trade of Portugal. He held several positions in the area of international trade and currently coordinates the management of Casa da Lagoa Turismo Rural, with the functions of business manager. He's passionate about the theme of the mask in their ethnographic and cultural aspects. And he is a Careto de Lagoa, has been for years, being today a fervent driver of this tradition. So please, João, go ahead and do your presentation. João, pode fazer a sua apresentação, por favor. Tem que ligar o som. Consegue ligar o seu microfone? Já está.
Eu penso que já estará.
Sim, força.
Eu estava a tentar, em primeiro, bom dia a todos e obrigado pelo convite, quer da vossa parte, quer da parte da Câmara Municipal de Mira, por me terem escolhido para esta tarefa tão nobre, que é poder divulgar a tradição aqui da minha aldeia, da minha terra, junto de pessoas tão ilustres como os intervenientes que estão hoje connosco. Eu não sei se devo fazer a minha apresentação em português, se a devo fazer em inglês, mas talvez seja melhor fazê-la em inglês para que todos possam perceber.
Sim, obrigada, João.
Eu estou com um problema em abrir o ficheiro da apresentação, não estou a perceber porquê.
Consegue partilhar a sua tela? Aqui com
não estou a conseguir abrir, não estou a conseguir, não, é um problema na minha... É um problema onde eu tenho isto guardado na pena, não estou a perceber porquê. Mas de qualquer forma eu farei a apresentação recorrendo a algumas imagens que tenho e não propriamente à apresentação, porque não estou a conseguir abri-la desde há bocado. Não sei.
Sim, se quiser enviar-me para eu tentar partilhar aqui através do meu...
Não, eu não estou a abrir, não estou a conseguir abrir a pena onde ela está propriamente dita. Ou é um problema com a pena. Okay. Não estou a conseguir. De qualquer forma, eu vou recorrendo a algumas imagens. Okay. E depois vou partilhar. Well, good morning for you all. I'm glad to be here in this webinar, so I can present the tradition of a little village in the central region of Portugal, the village of Mira, and the little village of Lagoa, where Caretos da Lagoa are originally from. This little village, it's very close to the sea, so a little bit different from all the other traditional Caretos village in the Portuguese country. We don't know if there is any influence from the sea to this tradition, but because we don't have formal books or any type of traditional document that support this origins of this tradition, but we find that there are very similitudes between some of the traditions in the northern area of Portugal, as if the type of masks or what we see, but especially what is behind the mask. And we felt that much more important, besides what we see, it's what we feel when we put the mask on. As a former Careto, I think that that type of energy that we receive when we put the mask, it's very similar from the ones that use the mask in the north of Portugal or in another countries that use the mask in this type of rituals, especially in intrudo times. The type of mask from Careto da Lagoa, I'm trying now to put some of the, well, we are here in the central region of Portugal, and the Careto da Lagoa mask. I think you are now seeing my mask. Is it correct? So this
we are seeing the map. We are seeing the map of Portugal right now.
The map of Portugal?
Yes.
So I'm going to change it now. I don't know if you are seeing it now, sorry. Probably
No.
not.
No,
Probably not. No, there is an issue with that, and I cannot fix it. I'm trying to fix it, but not possible at all. Well, I will continue. Well, the Careto mask, it's a mask that each Careto traditional makes his own mask. Well, so that it represents a little bit of the soul of the owner. Usually a young boy between the age of 16, 17, it starts to make his own mask with the help of other colleagues, and then he will use it for several years, or even it could pass it to another friend that is using the mask, because usually when Caretos get married, they will stop the performing of Caretos. So it will be a ritual from the age of, on the end of youth until the start of older age, usually in the age when boys go to the army, and the times they usually get married after coming from the army, they will hand the ritual of Caretos da Lagoa. The traditional costume, it's a skirt, a red skirt, and a white shirt. And then they will cross some belts with with some noising instruments, similar from the ones from the north of Portugal, but here they use it from animals in the farms or from another little instruments of sound that they could buy in a traditional fair, like the typical bells. In older times, they will not, probably there were no red skirts or white shirts, but they used the typical old ladies' costume from this region, from Gandra region, the typical skirt of the region, probably a black skirt or a holder skirt from a old lady from the region, and a shirt, not a white one probably, but a typical shirt from the region, but usually the bells, they were kept. The traditional, the playing of the traditional, it's very similar from the ones in the north in this period of the time. The Domingo Magro, the Domingo Gordo, and the Carnival Day, the Intrudo Day. And they used to go in all the little village from the municipality of Mira. In the first Sunday, they will go to the north. In the second Sunday, they will go to the south. And in Tuesday of Carnival, they will stay usually in the little village of Lagoa. The performing times, they will run through the fields, trying to get the girls, trying to make some sounds and touching them. Most of the times, in older times, they will run through these girls in the fields, because probably they were making the agricultural work in the fields of the region. Nowadays, because the girls, especially on Sunday and the changing times, there are not such agricultural times and works in these days, they will run to the streets of the village, making the sounds, running through the girls and trying to make some not very pleasant things most of the times, because they are a little bit aggressive on that type of work. This tradition, during the dictator time, the tradition was not very strong. One or two Caretos were running on the municipality, but then since 78, 79, 80s, the tradition is now running with more power, and each year there are more Caretos going on this, playing this tradition. What I can tell you more about tradition, the origins, we are not able to find an origin of this. Probably influence from northern countries on the last centuries, but there are no formal documents that support that type of affirmations. Some interested people, some studied, and people from University of Coimbra, they start to make a document that support the origins of Caretos da Lagoa, and we did not get a special origin, but by the comparison of the other traditions similar to Caretos da Lagoa, and the type when they appear, the changing time between winter and spring, the question of the fertility rituals and all that rituals that there are on this time of the year. Probably Caretos, they made part of the same rituals the spring and the fertility gods on this region. Caretos da Lagoa now, they have about 20 and 25 elements each year, sometimes more, sometimes less, it depends. The traditional mask, it's called campina. It's made in paper, strong paper, with horns, and then lots of stripes, or colored stripes of paper that when they are running, they make a special effect with the sound of the bells. It's very. I'm very sad that I cannot present a little movie or a little image with the Caretos, because most of it's what we see, it's what we felt when we see them. But I hope that that you can understand a little bit what is this tradition, and I will send you to each all or to Patricia the presentation that. Unfortunately, the technology make me a joke, and I cannot open my pen where the presentation was. Sorry about that, but I will send you to Patricia or to you all in the next time. One more time, it was a pleasure to be here with you. I hope that with this little words that I could show a little bit of what Caretos da Lagoa tradition are, and I invite you, of course, in the next future to come to the village of Mira and to the little village, to the little spot of Lagoa Mira, to show what Caretos da Lagoa tradition really is, and to enjoy a little part of our Portugal. Thank you all one more time.
Thank you, João. Thank you very much. And thank you all for your presentations. They were all really interesting, and you've respected the time and all. So thank you for that. I will now open a discussion panel. This discussion panel was supposed to be open to the viewers that are watching us on the Facebook page of the municipality, but as we have experienced some technical problems with the transmission, because we are in a small village and the internet connection here is not as good as we would hope. And so this transmission has been having some problems. We will do this discussion panel a little bit differently, and I'm sure you've all been listening to each other and probably have questions you would like to pose. João, can you please stop sharing your you?
Now it's working.
You've
Sorry.
opened it. Okay, so let's. If you want, you can show us some pictures so we have a visual idea of the Caretos.
That was what I was trying to show,
Okay,
because
go ahead,
I was looking at them, and then 1 minute, please.
Yes, sure.
Are you seeing it?
Not now.
Now?
Yes, now we are.
So, well, just putting this in a way that I can. This is the typical mask. This is the typical mask of Caretos da Lagoa. This is the campina. It's called campina. It's the mask. It's a mask made in paper, strong paper, and then with the ink it gets much more stronger. And this is the stripes. It's a colored paper stripes that when they run with the wind, they make a special effect. The tradition usually it's Caretos. They will run through the girls. It's like a ritual of fertility. They try to get the girls. This time it's more for fun, but in the beginning of it was the easiest way to get through contact between girls, between ladies of the region. Nowadays they do this type of attitudes on the streets of the village, and they will interact with the people that they found in the street, always making some sometimes not very pleasant things. Here there was a lady passing in a bike, they run to her, they try to get her, and they try to make some funny things with them. Each mask is different because it represents the character of the one who is making it, and they were made with what they had in the moment. The horns. This one is from probably a bull or a cow, but there are also another ones with goats, and they were made with the remainings of the agricultural process of and farming. Even the mask is it's a white shirt, but on the beginning probably there were no white shirts or red stripes as this one. This is the showing that this process is changing through the times. This is the little bells that I was talking about, and the little there is like a stick they use to impose some order or to making some strong character of the careto, some virality. Here you can see a chorizo, because when they go to the houses of the people, they usually, one of them were trying to reach the lady and the girl of the house, but some other of them, they were picking some chorizos. And nowadays even the people, they usually let something so the caretos can get, not as stolen, but just for fun. And they also get some wine or something to drink between the times when they go to people's house. Thank you one more time for it, and I hope that with these little images you could see a little bit more what Caretos da Lagoa tradition really is.
Yes, thank you, João. Okay, so as I was explaining, this discussion panel will be a little bit different than we were planning, since the people online have not been able to see you without technical problems, and we will ask questions between us. I have some points I want to hear you talk about a little bit more, and I'll also ask the other speakers if they want to pose or interact with anyone to please put your questions in the chat and we will discuss them. So to begin this discussion panel, and also we are recording this video, so we will post it online afterwards for everyone else to see. So going back to our first speaker, Kostas, you talked about the interruptions provoked by war, by the World War. I wanted to know how, or if it's possible to identify how the war had impacted how the tradition was recovered later.
Okay, I said that the destruction of Nausa in 1822 was a fact that the ritual incorporated. I mean, all the ritual today is based on the history of the town back in this year. We have the songs that are talking about the legends and the heroes of this period. We have the song that the female figure dancing, the Makrinitsa, which is talking about the woman that prefer to fall in the river of the town and not getting from the soldiers who came to the city. I have to say that Nausa during the Ottoman domination was a free city, as we can say a free city in domination, and no Ottoman soldiers go inside the city. And in 1822, they decided to make their revolution against the Ottoman Empire. And because of this, the city was punished with destruction and holocausts. And all these events come inside the ritual with the songs and with the stops in the city. We go to the place where the man of Nassau was executed in 1822. We dance there, circle dances, and after we go to the last square where before the revolution, the men of Nassau came in the city when they was on the mountains as warriors. They came in the town, and in the last square, which is next to the mountains, all of them go out of the city again in these years back. The Second World War is not included in the ritual, but during this period, we do not have the ritual in Nassau. They started again after the World War, the Second World War. I think I give some answers.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering if it also impacted the tradition in some ways. You know, maybe some kind of resources to make the costumes were not available anymore, things like that. And if you can identify those changes.
Yes, we have changes on the costumes from all the years. Mainly it's the same, but by the years, for example, the coins on the vest, in the past years, it wasn't so many coins. We had some coins and some jewels. Now we have only coins and 1 or 2 jewels on the vest in the front. And now it is dressed from a vest with the coins. In the past, we have them from the night before to sew them on the vest of the dancer. Little changes, small changes on the costume, or the skirt is going up in the last years.
Yes, of course, because it's something, and I've been studying this Carnival of Podence, but also other master traditions, and it's something very interesting how they really reflect the time we live in.
Yeah.
And so, Charles, on that subject, also wanted to ask you, since you have these broader view of all these master rituals in the European continent, how which are the most predominant functions that you find between them, the ones that are quite repetitive, like we hear a lot about fertility rites, even this persecution of women sometimes, the end of winter and the beginning of spring, things like that. Which are the ones that are more common? And do you identify, or can you identify also more contemporary functions as well, social functions? Thank you.
Speaking about the COVID now, this tradition proved that the main reason why they appear all over the world is that people want to be together. And I think that's that's the best reason. When I started the project, I was into this discussion about fertility. Of course, yes, there is a lot to do with agriculture, a lot to do with fertility, etc., etc. But if you think in 2021, I can believe that the question of fertility is a bit secondary, and then that the really, really big reason is about being together, opening the intimate space to each other. Most of these traditions all over the world are in common that people have to open their door to the visitors. So whether they are in Japan, like with the Namage in Akita, or the Suneka in Iwate area, but the same in South America, all the traditions are based on that visitation. which you can find in with the Caretos or with the Krampus. Why do they do that? I believe it's not only about bringing fertility into the house. I think this is the political reason, but the main reason is that there is a community, and the community is having a look at what's happening inside the house of the other. So it's one moment in the year where you have the right to go into the house of in your neighborhood. And if this would happen in town, in cities where we live now, that would be a big change in the way we will be together and have a certain solidarity. So let's say that this Santa Claus opening the door every 24th of December, as that is coming from that idea that it's a necessity to go into the house and visit. So that's one. That's the second common point. And after that, the question of touching the woman, etc., doing the things upside down, getting a certain freedom. That's complex, but being free, being able to be in the street all together without any mask, I would say. I mean, the mask you're wearing now, which is not really a mask, but a filter. But the real mask that everybody would like to have on his face these days, I mean, that's a good reason to be together, right?
Yes, I guess so, yes. Yes, we are freed from social roles, and under the mask also freed from some of our own obstacles to act maybe as we would like in other circumstances. So yes, masks hide and at the same time give you freedom. It's such an interesting thing that we are getting together to talk about it. Also, moving on to Rita, and if anyone else wants to pose questions, I think João wishes to ask someone a question. Go ahead, João, please.
Yes, it was about what it was being said. We felt that using the mask, and we felt that as a Careto, and I can see that in other members of the Caretos group, especially for some of them who are very shy, and when they use the mask, they get some energy that we don't usually see when they are with no mask, because being on the group, they get a special protection about it. They can do things that usually they were not able to do. They will not be so courage to do those type of actions. So the mask will give him the sense of belonging to a group, the protection of the group, and being anonymous. And being anonymous, they usually do things that they won't do when they were with his own face. So the question of using the mask, I think it, and this is parallel to other groups and to other traditions. The belonging, the sense of belonging to a group with one only big identity, it's like a catalyst of all those action that they use. And of course, nowadays they especially do this ritual to making part of something, making part of the village, making part of a community, and with that sense of community, being able to share and to do the ritual. It's a changing ritual with one identity that uses a special time of costume, I think, but the belonging and the sharing and all that is behind that thing, it's what is important, I think.
Yes, Charles, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would like to add that the question of wearing a mask to be anonymous is not a constant. Like, for example, in Japan, most of the masks are not hiding the whole face. So like I show you, for example, in this book, these masks you can see are only on the top of the head. So the face is here. So this means that the guy, if the guy is putting his face like that, then you see the mask. And then when he comes back, then you see his face. And why I'm telling you this is because I think that's the big difference between Europe and not only Europe, but also the carnival, because this tradition in Japan, for example, are not carnival. It's a masquerade. And that's also why I speak in general with the word masquerade more than carnival. A lot of people are using carnival without knowing what it means. But this idea of wearing a mask, a full mask covering completely your face, and in some groups they also have gloves, is the idea that you are transforming yourself. And that's a big particularity in Europe that you will not meet in Japan. Why? Because in such system, the mask is an interface. On one side of the mask, there is your identity. On the other side, there is all the people looking at your mask. And the masquerade is global. It's not only someone dressed up looking like a bear. It's someone who tend to believe that he's a bear. And on the outside, it's the visitor who is also taking part of the masquerade, like accepting that this guy is the bear. So it's like when you go at the theater or cinema, you believe in the story. So of course, you know that this guy is not the bear or the devil or the goat, but you believe, you accept to believe, and you play, you take absolutely part of the masquerade. And of course, the person inside the costume, inside the mask, kind of is ready as well to believe that he's the character. And in certain phenomenon of the European carnival, and because this is carnival, alcohol, of course, is one element which is pushing this idea that someone is becoming an animal. And more than alcohol, it's also the lack of oxygen when you have this mask. And you may sometime, after 3 days of masquerade in certain villages in Macedonia or Bulgaria or Greece, you may believe that you are a bear, for sure.
Yes, it can be quite an immersive experience. And it also is, like you were saying, a performance, right? These are performance rituals. But we were also, in your presentations, addressing very often the origins, where this all comes from. And I believe there are in all of them, we can see layers of time, different layers of time. Rita, you talked about, and you were very affirmative about the origins of the Mamutones traditions in Mamoyada, that they really go back to ancient times. I wanted to ask you, how did you document those origins? What resources do we really have to go back in time, and how much back in time can we go?
Well, this is a very difficult question. It's not easy to say when the masks were born. Very difficult. First of all, because Sardinia has got an oral history. So we don't have a written history. We don't have documents about the ceremony. And it's very hard for us to go back to the history and make a line of what was in the past. We are pretty sure that the masks represent a ritual, a pagan ritual, because otherwise we can't understand why the church at the back time decide to obstaculate the parade. Okay, the church tried to delete the tradition, okay, but it was impossible because the ritual was very into the community. But then there was a compromise. In fact, the masks parade for Sant'Antonio, which is a saint. And everywhere in Europe, I think I'm not saying wrong, all the masks parade with saints. The Krampus parade with St. Nicholas. For example, in Greece, they parade for St. George, San Giorgio. It's very important to believe that for us, the ritual was based in the Neolithic time. We believe that because the god Taurus, the god mother, were the two divinities very important in our region. And all the masks represent the religion, the ceremony that is into the countryside, and the ritual for the harvest time.
Okay, thank you. I find similarities also with our Portuguese traditions, especially the Carnival of Podence here, but also other Caretos traditions that we have in this region that happen during Christmas. And yes, they are mainly connected with saints, in our case, Saint Stephen, and also the church, and we have small references to that, of prohibitions, of masquerades and traditions like this. We can't find specific references to specific localities, but we do find documentation in the 17th century of the prohibitions of the church of masquerades and rituals like this. There's also an interesting document in the archive of the district of Bragança that talks about a fine imposed to the priests of the localities that would allow for these traditions to happen. Quite a huge amount of money they were requesting, and a lot of punities as well. But yeah, the priests, like you were saying, not only the traditions were very intricate to the communities, but also the priests, they lived in these communities and had a really strong social ties to the communities. So they allowed and were active participants sometimes. So I thank you very much for this. I think Charles also wants to add something. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, sorry, I will make it short, but I think one aspect is to add with this is it's really, I mean, some of you, I'm sure you know that book called The Invention of Traditions. I think it's absolutely essential to think about this aspect, because lot of traditions I photographed in the world, but as much in France, for example, in Bretagne, the tradition of the Breton folklore is appeared not only from a very long time, but also because someone, for some very political reason, started to push a movement in a certain region. And why? But because, of course, there is a certain tension between communities, and one community wants to show that they have a voice and that they have a very strong identity. So sometimes the start of such tradition comes with a very political reason. Bretagne in France, Alsace, Basque area. And often when you see this tradition on the borders, you see more of this, I would say. And then also, if you think, for example, of Scotland, there are a lot of traditions which were created during the 19th and 17th century by sometimes just one guy created by himself a full prism of tradition. And I think it's very important to remember that. that sometimes you have one bourgeois in a village which starts something by himself, create completely the story, create also the mythology of the story, and sometimes also play with the history of the country to be really able to stick to the tradition. And it's difficult to explain, but I went in Italy, in Ielsi. There's a bear. The bear in Ielsi has been created in the 90s. And they say that they found, when they restored the church, a representation of a bear. And from that, they started a new tradition. So it's very important to have this in mind, to not stick to an idea that this will come from the Middle Age.
Yes, thank you, Charles. That's an interesting point. João, go ahead. You have to connect your microphone, please.
There was an interesting issue that Rita just said about the question of religion and the use of masks, because in Lagoa de Mira, the same have happened, especially during the dictator time, when the church, they didn't allow it, the participation and the use of that mask, and even the regime sent a law that was forbidden to use the mask during the intruder times. That law was not especially applied by the authorities, the local authorities, because even then they felt that it was not fair. It was a whole tradition. So the difference between the higher the regime and then the lower applicants, the local authorities, it was different. And the church, probably they didn't like the Caretos methods of playing, because they were a little against the traditional rule of church and all that things about Christianity, and even probably it explains why the difference between European traditions and Asian traditions regarding the masquerades are different, because I think we have a very strong religion issue in this type of rolling played with masks. And curious or not, in the municipality of Mira, all the little village, they have one church or chapel. And Lagoa, the place where Caretos are from, they have no church. We don't know if it's common or not, but all the little village have a little church or chapel. In Lagoa de Mira, they were never had any chapel or church.
Okay, thank you very much for all of your interventions. I think this was a really nice first part of the webinar. I am really sorry for our technical issues. We are recording this, as I've said, and we will post it online. And hope to see you later this afternoon during the second part of the webinar. Please, Charles, go ahead and add what you wanted to say. You still have your hand up? Okay, so I'll close it now. We were quite on time. We recovered a little bit of the delay we had in the morning. It was a really great pleasure to be here with you. We will continue during the afternoon. You are welcome to participate. And Professor Aida Carvalho will be the host in the afternoon. Thank you all, and we will be back at 2 o'clock Portuguese time. Check your local hour. And thank you. Let's talk and see you soon. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for
Thanks.
now.